Back then, I wasn't afraid of the plan. That's all I was striving for. That's what I was working so hard for. That's what I risked homelessness for. And so I need to get back in that mode and really remind myself that this is the plan we signed up for. This is the plan that we were created for. And if we don't accomplish the plan, if we don't do the things that God has called us to do, if we don't have trust and faith in God, when it's time for me to go, I don't really like the option of where I'm headed. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges. But what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're talking about how it's time to make a change and some tips to become the best version of yourself. So, let's get started. All right, y'all. Happy Monday. It's still kind of weird to say that because I did Wednesday for so long, but happy Monday. I hope that you had a great week last week. I know last week's episode was a bit, to me it felt different, but it also felt very good, and I really did like that episode. And I was definitely going through it when I made that episode, but I'm feeling a little bit better now, and honestly, I don't really have too many updates, to be honest. I mean, Black History Month is quote unquote over, but Black history goes on all the time, and there is no USA without Black history. There's no USA without Black people. So that's pretty much all I have for a quote unquote weekly update. But let's go ahead and just jump into a quick recap of last week's episode in case you missed it. Last week, I had talked about how it's time for a rebrand. And I'm not gonna lie, I really came for myself in that episode. And I really hope that what I talked about helped other people as well. And I hope that it came across as like a little bit of tough love / like a reality check, and not in any negative way, but really it's just like, when you feel like you're at a point where you're kind of throwing your life in the garbage, even though like you're doing everything that you possibly can. Is there room for growth? Of course. I think sometimes we can ruminate in those feelings and ruminate in that mentality. So I really hope that it helped somebody. And I really hope that it got somebody to think about how they could change their life and make a change so that they can become the best version of themselves. Here are the 3 key things that you missed in last week's episode if you didn't listen to it. The first one is you can't blame your traumas for the reason that you're stuck if you're where you have a problem. I talked a little bit about how, it's one thing if you don't recognize that you have a trauma, but if you already know that you have a trauma that is keeping you from becoming the person that you're supposed to be, the person you aspire to be, you can't blame it on your trauma anymore. You have to really start acknowledging what you plan to do to fix the problem. Next thing, the voices in your head that are casting doubt are not yours. They are voices of other people's that you've ingrained in your memory along the way. Pretty basic, pretty simple. You would never tell yourself that you can't do something unless somebody had told you that first. When we're children, when we're young, we always think that we can do and be whoever we want, whatever we want. And it's not until somebody tells you like that's not realistic that you start to really think about like, well, what can I do and what can't I do? So keep that in mind, that those thoughts are not yours. And I also talked about if your voice was the only voice in your head, what would you say? What would you hear? And how would that make you feel? If you missed last week's episode, I highly suggest you check it out. And the third thing, the biggest thing, what you've been doing up to this point hasn't been working. So it's time for a rebrand. Last week's episode is the inspiration for this week's because I really just wanted to talk about yes, I acknowledge that it's time to make a change, and what am I supposed to do? And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. It's like, okay, I recognize that the things that I'm doing aren't working for me, and it's time for me to start doing some new things. It's time for me to start changing the way that I operate so that I can become a better person. But what do I do? Where do I start? And I have a list of 4 things because I do not want to overwhelm you. So I have a list of 4 things that I would suggest, and they're things that I'm working on as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into those. Okay, so I have my list here, and I'm just going to quickly say that making the change to become the person that you aspire to be, that person that you see when you close your eyes, is going to be hard. It's going to be hard on purpose. You've been doing things, for me, 24 years the same way. And now you have to change them all of a sudden, and that's not familiar for you. So it's going to be difficult and it's going to be challenging, and that's okay. And you're still capable, and you will do it if you want it bad enough. So the first thing that I'm doing, and the first thing that I would suggest for becoming the best version of yourself, is to create more time in the day. I'm not gonna hold y'all. I am somebody who is getting out of a pattern of waking up or getting out of bed 30 minutes before I'm supposed to be at work and rushing to get to work and feeling extremely anxious because I don't like to be rushed. And so I would literally get up. Either I would get up at 5:45 when my alarm goes off, and I would just sit there in silence and just brace myself for the day that's coming to me, or I would just keep snoozing my alarm and going to sleep, snoozing and going to sleep until it's like I have no choice but to get out of bed. Otherwise, I'm going to be extremely late for work. And so I would try to fit everything in at the end of the day after work. Mind you, I'm at work from 7:30 to about 4ish. So I'm trying to fit in going to the gym, cooking dinner, creating content, figuring out what I'm going to be teaching tomorrow. Like, I'm trying to fit in all of these things, time with God, time to talk to my friends, time to relax in about a 6-hour window before I need to go to sleep. And honestly, like, I was feeling like it was impossible because it was like I wasn't really managing my time the best. I'm now making more time in the day for myself. I used to wake up at 4 to go to the gym and get whatever it is that I need to get done out of the way early in the morning before I went to work. And I'm gonna start doing that again, or actually I have started doing that again. I started on Saturday with waking up at 4:30 and going to the gym, and honestly, I love it, and I missed that routine so much because getting up at 4:30 and going to the gym, and I was able to run errands and do all this extra stuff and clean parts of my apartment, and it was only like 12:30, and I had already accomplished so many things throughout the day. And so I'm really trying to work on my time management and giving myself more time in the day. Is there time in the day that you're wasting scrolling on your phone? It's taking too long talking on the phone to some people about nothing. If it's not really that important, maybe it's time to hang up the phone. Are you wasting time sitting in your car? I do that a lot. I'm guilty of that. Are you wasting time in the bathroom scrolling on your phone? Are you snoozing your alarm a lot? Where can you cut that out so that you have more time available to you to do the things that you actually want to do? I would highly suggest that. And if it means you got to wake up 30 minutes earlier, an hour earlier, whatever, you don't have to go to the extreme of waking up at 4:30. That's not realistic for everyone. I completely understand. But where can you find time to create a quote unquote longer day for yourself? That would definitely be the first thing. And now my goal is to do 4:30 at least 4 days out of the week. If I can do more, or if that just becomes my everyday routine, then that's great. But I don't want to overwhelm myself. And that's the key when it comes to becoming the person that you want to be. Do not overwhelm yourself, and do not try to give yourself all of these goals and all of these changes all at once, because you will burn yourself out. That will not be sustainable, because now you're exhausted and you're drained, and it's just like you completely changed who you are, what you do, what you eat, your routine in a matter of 2 days, and that's just not going to work. It has to be a slow and gradual change. Otherwise, you will resent the change. You will drop off of it. You won't do it anymore. And a couple of months from now, you'll be upset about the fact that you've regressed or that you've made no progress towards the version of yourself that you aspired to be. Slow and steady wins the race. Do not rush yourself when it comes to making changes in your life. If you find that you can only get up early one day out of the week to start with that, and then gradually make your way up to 2 and 3 and so on, whatever you're comfortable with. Next thing is prioritize self-care. I know that can be very difficult for a lot of people. It's hard for me to just sit down and do nothing, or to do something solely for my enjoyment without any rewards. I find that I'm somebody that's very reward motivated, whether it's money, a grade, a certificate, a title, whatever. I find that I tend to work towards that a lot of the time, and that seems to be the best method for me. But when it comes to just doing things for fun and for living life as a 24-year-old, I don't do that. And so I would highly suggest prioritizing some form of self-care and carving out time in the day for that. Again, with me trying to fit in all this stuff at the end of the day after a long day of work, it's extremely difficult. So I'm trying to figure out where I can fit in some self-care after work, because honestly, I can't just get out of work and go straight into content creation, because working as a teacher in the middle school is extremely exhausting. It is very draining. It is energy depleting. And to be able to get in front of a camera and make content, like, you need energy for that. So what I've been doing now is I'll get out of work and I'll give myself an hour to an hour and a half to decompress and do whatever I feel like doing that is going to make me feel good, that is going to bring my anxiety level back down to where it's supposed to be, my stress levels back down to a regular amount, because it is very stressful, my job. And so I'll do that. And what I was doing before I decided to start working out in the morning instead is that I would do that. I would take my rest time, and then I would also eat during that time, and then I would go to the gym, and then pretty much like it would already be like 9 o'clock. Taking that hour after work just really allows me to just recharge my battery, get ready for whatever it is that I need to do. I have some meetings. I'll have Bible study on Tuesdays at church. I want to make sure that before I do anything else after work, I give myself time to just recharge and relax. And I would definitely suggest finding some self-care time. If it's not after work, maybe it's before work for you. I like to sit in my bed and I sit in the dark in silence. I get ready for work pretty much in the dark in silence, and I take that time to talk to God. And first of all, why is it that there's no distractions, there's no sound, there's no TV, there's no lights, but all of a sudden, like, my brain is jumping all over the place during that time when I'm talking to God? I don't really, anybody else experience that? So I try to stay focused on like what I'm talking to God about and like what my prayer time looks like during that time. And that's also been a good way for me to start my day. Does some of that serenity get undone when I get to work? Absolutely. But it's nice to know that I'm not rushing to go to work and I don't have that time. Like, I can peacefully take my time if need be and just brace myself for whatever it is that I'm walking into. Next thing is thanking God for my health and showing him that I am grateful for it. It's very easy to brush aside the fact that being healthy is a blessing. Like, I can move my body however I want to. I can eat pretty much whatever I want to because I don't have any allergies. I don't have any medical conditions aside from asthma that can stop me from living my day-to-day life or from doing things that I want to try. And so I want to show God that I'm grateful for that, because that truly is a blessing. And there are plenty of people who are sick, who are in the hospital, who will trade places with you at any moment in time if they have the opportunity. And so I want to just be thankful for the fact that, you know, this is my life. Be grateful and show gratitude to God, because at any moment in time, that might not be the case for me. So I really want to start taking care of my body. Even like when I made last week's episode, I was going to the gym, but I was going after work, after my decompression time. And it's a great outlet for me and I love it. But again, I don't want to feel rushed and now I have to go to sleep and I didn't get to create content because I didn't have enough time. Going in the morning has definitely been super beneficial because 1, I feel good, I feel energized. 2, I got to spend that time by myself. 3, I got to move my body and show gratitude for the fact that I'm able to move my body. It's just been really beneficial. And something else, cooking at home a lot more and making my own food from scratch, which has been really fun in all honesty. Like, making something new from scratch, like I'm able to learn something new. I'm able to pretty much tailor it the way that I want to. And it's just like, yo, I can make myself a 12-piece wings for $7. As long as I have my own chicken wings, I have all my seasonings and my sauces, I'm good. You know how much a 12-piece wings is if I go out to buy that? Forget it. And again, I can tailor it to how healthy I want it to be. And so I've really just been enjoying like finding new recipes, like healthier recipes that align with like my health and fitness goals, and just being grateful for how it makes me feel. And again, being grateful for the fact that I don't have any limitations when it comes to my health. And I should not take that for granted, because again, there are people who would trade places with you in a heartbeat to be in your position. So if you feel like you are taking that for granted, I would just highly suggest you take a moment to thank God for the fact that you have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind, all that extra stuff, and just be grateful for the fact that he's blessed you with this health. Oh, let me just quickly say before I move on to the next one, just because I'm out here eating healthy does not mean that I'm perfect, okay? I be making my own chocolate-covered strawberries with Oreos on them at home. I still indulge in sweet things and this, that, and the third. I just wanted to point that out before we moved on to the next one. I'm not perfect. And even the best version of myself is not going to be out here eating salads and drinking green juice and all that. Like, that will never, ever, ever, ever be me. I want to enjoy my food and enjoy my experiences with food. But again, I also want to show gratitude for my body and my health. And I want to live a long life. I want to be here for my children and my children's children, if God willing. So I want to start doing the things that I need to do now so that I can live that long and healthy and beautiful life later on when I'm older. The last one that I have is trusting in God. And I have a couple of different parts to this. But the first thing is that this is honestly the hardest thing for me to do right now in terms of becoming the person that I want to be. I know the person that I want to be and the person that I aspire to be is somebody who trusts in God wholeheartedly, fully praises God every chance that she gets, worships God every chance that she gets, acknowledges that he is the reason that I am who I am, I have the things that I have, I'm able to live this life, etc. Down to the air that I breathe, like that is all God, that's all glory to God. And while there are some parts that I can acknowledge right now and that I don't disagree with, I do not trust God. And what I really should say is that I just don't believe that I'm worthy of the things that he wants to do in my life, because that's genuinely how I feel. I do trust like all the miracles that God does for others. I've seen all the beautiful things that God has done for other people's lives, but I keep rejecting that. I keep repelling that from my own life because I don't feel like I'm worthy enough. I don't feel like I'm ready for that type of stuff. I'm not too sure. I'm still trying to figure that out. I have some ideas, but I'm not 100% sure on why I feel that way. And so there are some shadow work prompts that I'm working on to really figure out why that's the case for me. But that's number one. I know I saved it for last because it was super important, but that's honestly number one for me. It's honestly been consuming a big part of my life because I see it in everything that I do. I don't have trust in God when it comes to the podcast or when it comes to my lifestyle page or when it comes to like what I end up doing for work and my finances and with this and with that. And honestly, like I see it everywhere that I go. And so it's something that I definitely want to work on. So what I'm doing is I plan to get back into my Bible study and get back into spending as much time with God as possible, both alone and in a group setting. My church has a Bible study on Tuesdays. I usually do Bible study with my friends on Monday. So I want to get back to doing that consistently. Also, we have a women's ministry on Thursdays on Zoom, so I want to go back to that because I've been isolating myself from a lot of that time and a lot of that ministry, Bible study, etc. because I've been in this rut, ruminating on those feelings of like, well, I don't feel like my life is going to change and I'm throwing my life away and I don't feel like I'm the best version of myself and da-da-da-da-da-da. I've been kind of like retracting from all the good things in my life and just focusing on that. And so I know that the person that I aspire to be doesn't allow that. They don't ruminate in those thoughts. They don't believe in those thoughts and those feelings. The person that I aspire to be still goes to Bible study, still goes to ministry, and is open with the people that they trust at the church about like what she's going through. And that's exactly what I want to do, and I feel comfortable enough to talk to some people in my church about what I'm going through and be realistic about it. And I also want to just spend some more one-on-one time with God. And I think we have this image of what one-on-one time with God is supposed to look like. Our Bible always has to be present, or we have to speak a certain way or write things down a certain way or whatever. And honestly, sometimes I want that to be the case sometimes, but also I just want to be realistic and just have a regular conversation with God, just talk out loud and be real. Just like if I was talking to one of my friends and just be like, this is where I'm at, man. Like, this is how I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. I don't know what to do. And I know that I said this, that, and the third. I know I behaved this way and that way. And I do apologize for that. Now that I have clarity and stuff like that, what can I do? Can you give me the strength? What wisdom can you provide for me? Etc., etc. I just need to take that for what it is. I feel like I have this pressure right now of like, oh, well, all you did was just talk out loud. And yeah, you said that you were talking to God, but what is that supposed, like, you should be reading your Bible all the time. And I should be reading my Bible. I'm not going to negate that, but I feel like there's this pressure that prayer has to look a very specific way every single time, and that's not the case. So just really pushing myself back into my faith and really leaning on that instead of leaning and ruminating on these negative thoughts and all this doubt that's not mine. Number one, it's definitely not God's, and just getting back into the promises that he has made me and that he has made for all the people who believe in him. While we're on this topic of trusting God, I want to just talk about how I've been coming to the realization that the reason I don't trust God is, one, because I don't think I'm deserving of the things that he's trying to do in my life, but also because I keep trying to associate my trust with people on this planet with God. Like, are there people that have done me wrong on this planet of Earth? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have been done dirty. And they're not an accurate representation of who God is and how much God loves me and what God is capable of doing. And so I cannot rely on those traumas and those experiences with those particular people and apply that to a God who I know isn't that way. I can't apply those ideologies and, again, those traumas and experiences to a God that I know loves me regardless of what I do. He loves me just the same, and all he's asking is for me to put my trust and my faith in him and to move when he tells me to move. And I cannot put my trauma from my parents, from past relationships, friendships, whatever. I cannot put those traumas on him, because at the end of the day, there is nobody like God. There's nobody that will love me as much as God, that will trust in me as much as God. Because that's the other thing too. As much as I talk about trusting in God, God trusts me. God is still trusting in me every time that I make a mistake. God is still trusting in me. God is still trusting in you every time you make a mistake, every time that you fall off. He's still trusting you. That's why you're still here. Because if God felt like there was no purpose for your life, you would have no life, realistically speaking. But he's still trusting you. But because you don't trust enough in yourself, that is why you're slowed down, you're delayed. It's not because he doesn't believe in you. He gave you everything that you need. And that's something I honestly have to remind myself of all the time. He gave me everything that I need to be successful, to be the person that he has called and created me to be. And I cannot put my traumas on him. I cannot put my experiences and my reasoning for my lack of trust in people onto him, because he did not do any of those things to me, number one. And even though he allowed those things, they were to shape me into becoming the person that I'm supposed to be. But I need to remove this barrier of not being able to trust in God in order to be able to fully experience my faith and to fully experience the love of God, because I'm in the way. It's not him. It's not anybody else. It's just me. Today, our sermon at church talked about how to get into heaven. And I've seen a lot of this on TikTok in like a funny skit kind of way, but just talking about how a lot of people think that the only way to get into heaven is if you're a good person, and how that's not the case at all. And it really has a lot to do with your faith in God and your trust in God. And the sermon was great. It was amazing. I'll link the sermon. I forgot to do that last week, so I will also link last week's sermon too, because they're just so good. And if you don't have a church, or if you like to watch church online, I would highly recommend watching Born Again Ministries. That's the church that I attend out here in the DMV area. But while I went up to the altar counselor, I love my girl Andrea. I go up to her every single time. I told her like I wanted prayer for my ability to trust in God more, and to remove that barrier that I've placed that's stopping me from trusting in God. While she's praying for me, I come to this realization that I trusted in the plan that God had for me more when it seemed impossible. But now that it seems more possible, now that it seems pretty real, like it's a possibility, now all of a sudden I don't trust in the plan and I want to abandon the plan. Like what? I trusted in the plan when I was homeless. I trusted in the plan while I was depressed in college. I trusted in the plan while I was trying to figure out how I was going to make money, where I was going to be living. I trusted in the plan every single time when people doubted me when I was younger, when I was in high school. I trusted in the plan when it seemed like it was impossible. But now that I'm getting closer and closer to that plan and to that push of becoming the person that I want to be, now I don't trust in the plan. What? Why? Why? And I had to think to myself and just really talk to myself and realize that it's not that I don't trust in the plan. It's that the plan is very much real, and I still very much believe in the plan, and I'm scared. I don't think that I'm ready for it. And honestly, it has nothing to do with me. God will deem me ready whenever he sees that I'm ready. It doesn't matter if I feel qualified or ready or not, because at the end of the day, he only calls the unqualified, quote unquote, even though he gave you everything that you need. Don't forget. And so I have to remind myself of that, is that there were times that I trusted in that plan long before that plan seemed like it would ever be a possibility. I honestly thought that I would never move my feet. I never thought that I would be posting my podcast. I never thought that I would be creating content. And originally, this podcast was supposed to be a blog. Could you believe that? And that's still a possibility. Hey, anybody like to read? It's still very much a possibility. But this was originally supposed to be a blog, and that thought was back in 2021, so about 4 years ago. And I didn't start this podcast until January 2024. That was about 3-ish years before I finally moved my feet. But even then, I would be practicing talking to the camera. There was no camera, by the way, so I was just sitting there talking to myself. I would be sitting there practicing talking to the camera. I would have dreams about being on interviews with Oprah and with so-and-so here, and I would be practicing what I wanted to say. And I trusted in the plan before I even had a tripod, before I owned a microphone, even before I had access to the internet, okay? Because, our family was slow to get onto the internet. But nonetheless, I trusted in the plan then. But now that I have access to everything that I need to be able to make that plan real, and now that I'm actually doing it, all of a sudden I don't trust in the plan. No. No. The plan is still very much real. I still know, very much so, that I've been created to break the patterns in my family's history for sure. I'm just scared. That's what it is. It's not that I don't believe in the plan. It's not that I don't trust in the plan. It's that I'm nervous. I'm nervous. And I don't feel ready. I don't feel qualified enough. And God is like, I really don't care about none of that. I gave you everything that you need, and I'm telling you what to do. All you got to do is do it. And that's all you have to do. All you have to do is put your trust and your faith in me, and I will give you everything that you need, and I will move you, and you will be qualified. You will feel qualified. You will feel ready. You will feel confident to be able to do the things that I've called you to do, because at the end of the day, I gave that to you. And that's where I need to get to. I got to put myself back in that mentality of when I trusted in the plan, when I was broke, when I was homeless, when I was sick, when I was going through all of these things. I need to get back into that mentality and remind myself like this is still very much possible. And back then I wasn't afraid of the plan. That's all I was striving for. That's what I was working so hard for. That's what I risked homelessness for. And so I need to get back in that mode and really remind myself that this is the plan we signed up for. This is the plan that we were created for. And if we don't accomplish the plan, if we don't do the things that God has called us to do, if we don't have trust and faith in God, when it's time for me to go, I don't really like the option of where I'm headed, realistically speaking. So it's like, I really need to start making that move. I'm at a point where it's just like, these are the things in my life at this moment in time. Of course, there are a bunch more things that I would want to work on, but these are the things in my life right now that I really want to work on. All right, y'all. I have some shadow work prompts to help you as you start to make these changes in your life to become the person that you want to be. And before I read them, I just have to reiterate this again. Becoming the person that you aspire to be, becoming the person that you were created and called to be, it's going to be a challenge and it's going to take some time. Do not overwhelm yourself and try to do all these things and change your complete life in 2 days, in a day, in a week, even in a month. Don't do it. Slow and steady is going to win the race. That's why I only listed off 4 things that I'm doing and 4 things that I would suggest. And as time goes on, and as I start to switch out of things because, okay, I feel confident in this area, it's time to bring in the next thing, I will continue to make more episodes like this and update you and ask you how you're doing with your journey as well. Because if I gave you guys a list of 20 things that I want to change in my life, first of all, I still feel like the list would be very long. I feel like that still wouldn't be everything. But if I gave y'all a list of 20 things, I would not be helping you. I would be doing you a disservice. So 4 things. Don't pick 5. Don't pick 6. Don't pick 3. Pick 4 things, preferably 1 thing for each category in your life that's of extreme importance to you right now, whether that's faith, finances, education, career, health, whatever. 4 things, 1 from a different category for each, unless there's 2 things in one category that you really need to focus on right now. Cool. By all means, it's your life, and there's nothing wrong with that anyways. But pick 4 things that you're really ready to work on and that you're really ready to start making a change in, and that you can push yourself and be disciplined enough to hold yourself accountable when you're falling off. With that being said, I have these 4 shadow work prompts and I will leave them in the description. As always, they will be available there. I have 2 that are general, for lack of a better word, and 2 that are a little bit more faith-based. So if you want to write these down, if you want to put them in your notes app, whatever you need, take a quick second to go and grab that. So the first one is, what fears come up when I think about making a big change? Are these fears based on truth or past wounds? Second one, have I been carrying resentment towards myself or others? How can I offer forgiveness and move forward? Have I been fully surrendering my plans to God, or am I trying to control everything on my own? Why? Last one, what unique gifts or talents has God given me? How can I start using them more? I will leave those in the description of today's episode, but I do want to mention that I do have a shadow work journal available. It is free, $99. It is free, $0.00. You can download that on a platform called Gumroad. It is linked in the description of every single episode that we've done so far. And if you have access to my link tree, which again is also linked in the description, you can find it there. There are 2 versions. They are exactly the same. The only difference is that one is all white in case you want to print it out instead, and one is all black, simply an aesthetic purpose for me because I work on it on my iPad. But again, I have a shadow work journal that is very much free 99 that is available to you. And if you've used it, or if you download it and you decide later on that you use it, definitely feel free to let me know how you like it. Feel free to let me know if there's anything you want me to add for the next one, if there's anything you want me to change. Are there certain topics you want me to address? Let me know, because I definitely want to start making some more of them. I loved making that digital product, and I do want to start making specific journals for specific things. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as that comes about later on in the year. Free shadow work journal talks about shadow work, self-care, affirmations, and just some love for myself. Free 99, available on Gumroad. Sorry, y'all, it looks like the sun is moving, so if the sun is like in my face, my apologies. But we are at the point in the episode where we've reached our affirmation for the week. And our affirmation for the week is: I trust that every challenge I face is shaping me into the person I am meant to be. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say that 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. And so, I trust that every challenge I face is shaping me into the person I am meant to be. I trust that every challenge I face is shaping me into the person I am meant to be. I trust that every challenge I face is shaping me into the person I am meant to be. All right, y'all, that's all I have for this week. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify if you're listening to this, what your thoughts are. If you find us on social media, which is at Instagram and TikTok, both at the HSL Pod, let me know what your thoughts are on the episode. If you like this podcast, if you like what I talk about, if you feel like anything that I have talked about has been helpful to you, please go ahead and give us a 5-star review. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, like the videos. That definitely helps push them out to people who are interested in topics like this. And it helps the channel out a lot. It helps the podcast out a lot. And I would just really, really appreciate it. That's all I have for y'all this week. So I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye.